So we're talking about Hilchot Shabbat and the 39 categories of work which are forbidden on Shabbat. And they are mentioned in the Mishnah. So we saw that the first 11 types of work are all related to the preparation of bread. Then we have another 13, a set of 13 works or types of work that are related to the preparation of garments that is made from wool or from linen, and they are הגוזז את הצמר, המלבנו המנפצו הצובעו הטובע המסך, העושה שני בתי נירים, ההורג שני חוטין, הפוצע שני חוטין, הקושר המתיר התופר הקורע. Those things that most of us don't do on a regular basis. I'll translate. הגוזז את הצמר is shearing wool. מלבנו is to wash the wool until it turns white, which today most people associate with the halakha, cleaning, right, or washing, or spraying if you have a spot, you have a stain, and you spray it and then rub it. People say that falls under the category of melaben, but the original definition, cleaning wool is a very tedious process. It cannot even be done in a day. It has to be soaked. There's so much dirt and soil entangled within the wool. But anyway, this is the melacha, amenapzo. This is the beating the wool to make it to smaller threads. Tzov'o, dyeing. Tove is making the wool into threads. Hamesech is putting the wool on the loom, which was used for weaving, the weaver's loom. Ha'oseh shnei batei nirim, creating two vertical lines on the loom to start weaving. Ha'oreg shnei chutim, ha'potzeh shnei chutim, when you run through two threads through the loom. Akosher ve'amatir, tying a knot and untying a knot, sewing doing two stitches, and tearing or opening in order to do two stitches. So these look very detailed and very particular. And there's other kinds of works that you do on a regular basis. They're all done more in a commercial setting, but the one thing that they have in common is it's almost like a manual, a description of, if you want to know how to make garments from wool, these are the actions that you have to know how to perform. Then there are 9 others, so we have a set of 11, then 13, now 9 melachot, 9 types of work that are related with the preparation of meat and parchment, all the byproducts of animals. And those are hatzat tzvi, hashohato hamafshito, hamolho me'abed et oro, hamuhako me'hatcho, hamukotev shte otiyot, v'amuhek al menat lichtov shte otiyot. So they talk about hunting a deer, hunting an animal, slaughtering it, skinning it, then salting the meat, processing the hide to make it into parchment. It's called me'abed oro. Hamuhako. This is a process of rubbing the skin or the hide with the strongest, almost like sanding it. With what today we do with sandpaper, but there was a process done to make the hide smooth and turning it into parchment. Hamehatcho, then cutting into the appropriate pieces in order to use it for writing. Then writing or erasing in order to write 2 letters. Because back in the day, not unlike today, we have so much paper that we have scratch paper by the tons and we throw away. It was very rare, it was very expensive. So if you needed to correct something, there was a special way of erasing the ink to write on top of it. I'm going to highlight one example from this list that makes the life of observant people very, very difficult, and that is mehatech. Mehatech, in the original context of the Mishnah, was cutting the hide that is now parchment into pieces that are going to be used as documents. And obviously, when you do that, you're very particular regarding the size of how, you don't just tear it. You measure it and you cut it. Just like we have today, when you talk about paper, you have A4, A8, etc. Right? You have specific sizes that you know how to refer to. Inebo gilayon, hatzi gilayon, and all that. So, based on that, especially in modern times, when you have so many paper products in the household, right? You have paper towels, toilet paper, and then you have aluminum foil and saran wrap, and what else? Like people, that people need to tear. So there are many poskim who say that you cannot do it on Shabbat because it's mehatech. They say you are now measuring and cutting something to use. The problem with that is, we're not starting with the problem. The way it impacts people's life. One of the things that you have to do before Shabbat, if you look at, for example, Age.com, when they teach people about Ilchot Shabbat, they say one of the things that you have to do before Shabbat is cut toilet paper. Also cut paper towels and saran wrap and aluminum foil. And they say if you don't have time, you could buy them pre-cut. Now it's a whole industry, especially in Israel. Or you go to the kosher stores, Shalom Moti, you'll find, those pre-cut saran wrap, pre-cut aluminum foil. Unbelievable, right? But it creates a lot of problems. Yes, Robert.
Couldn't they just make them in irregular serration?
Right. So some people do. Some people say, okay, so I'm not going to cut the toilet paper the regular perforation. I'll cut it differently. Right. To me, it's an interesting halacha because I know at least 3 or 4 people who told me that they were not religious once, and then they became religious to the extent they say that I would pre-cut toilet paper before Shabbat, right? But with all of them also, they went back to not being religious. And to me, it's an indicator. Why do you say I was so religious that I even did that? Because this is the one thing that looks to you weird. It's ridiculous, really. When I'm going to tear a little piece of toilet paper on Shabbat, right? So when you talk to people who are also engaged in the theology or philosophy of halakha, they will tell you, but this is the beauty of Shabbat, that every little detail is covered and you have to... I'm sorry, that's too much. It's too much. It's really going a little crazy. The halakha, especially if you look at the Sephardic halakha, says there's no problem with that. Why there's no problem with that? Because look at what the original halakha was all about. It was about measuring and cutting. When you measure to write on a parchment, you really measure it to the millimeter, right, or to the inch, to know exactly how to use it. And then you write on it and you preserve it for generations. You can find ketubot today that were written 300 and 400 years ago. We have ancient documents on parchment the most ancient that we have is about 12 or 1300 years old. So it's a permanent type of job of work. You cut it in order to write something on it that will stay forever or as long as possible. By contrast, when you cut toilet paper and paper towel, this is to use and throw right away. You don't care you're not saying, okay, I need 12 inches of toilet paper or 15 inches of a paper towel, right? You cut it and you use it and throw it away. Even with the things that you think you measure, like saran wrap or aluminum foil, is intended to cover the dish, is also only temporary until you serve the meal, or 1 day or 2 days to be in the fridge and you throw it away. So it doesn't apply at all. But it's just one example of how the halachot of Shabbat got out of hand. But in general, we see it's already obvious when you start looking at the structure of the Mishnah and the list of the types of work that more than really looking at each detail of halakha and saying this exactly is what's forbidden on Shabbat, the rabbis were creating a sort of a reference guide of the things that are associated to making bread, the things that are associated with making a garment, things that are associated with kelim killing an animal and using its products, the meat, the hide, etc. Finally, we have 5 melachot that are related to construction or industrial work, and they are boneh, soter, mechabe, mav'ir, makeh befatish. The boneh is a construction building, and it was originally limited only to anything that is has to do with the building itself, connected to the ground. Soter is demolishing, meaning undoing something that was built. Mechabe, putting off fire. Mav'ir, lighting a fire. And makeh befatish. This one, which is the last of the 4, there are 4 sets, right? 11, 13, 9, and 5 melachot. This one is very, I wouldn't say, let's call it a little interesting or weird. Why would this be a melacha? Or in what context it's a melacha? Makeh befatish literally means hitting with a hammer. And the understanding of this type of work is that that's the final touch. The final touch in any type of work, that when something is not ready for use and you give it the finish, then this is called makeh befatish. So when you look at the details of, it's understood why it would be forbidden, because you have completed the work. On the other hand, the question is, what type of makeh befatish, of this finishing touch, should be forbidden and what should not? What if I could use whatever product it is without this final touch, right? For example, when you have, I give you the example that the Gemara gives and how it is understood today, because this is a very common thing. The Gemara speaks about garments that come from when you buy a new garment and it's stitched, so you can't wear it. So you have to remove the threads, right? Now, it is applied today by many poskim to suits that come, with the pockets sewn, and you have to cut the thread, or if it's cut in the back, if there's a slit in the back, and the 2 parts have a little thread that connects them, and then you have all the tags, and even to clothes that you pick up from the dry cleaning and have little tags on them. Even though some dry cleaners today are more sophisticated, they have a tag that's almost invisible on the with the barcode on the so you can wear it with it. So the question is it exactly the same as the Mishnah was speaking about? Because back then, when they speak about sewn garments that come from the tailor, the sleeves were really closed. You couldn't wear it. There was no way to wear it unless you open it. If you have the pocket sewn, you can still wear the garment. Even if the back is sewn, you can still wear the garment. And even if the tags are on, believe it or not, there are some places where it's trendy among young people to not remove the tags. Everybody to see, that it's a Hugo Boss or whatever it is, just for fun, and also so they could return it later. They buy it. No, unfortunately, it's not. And they brag about it. So I bought it, and for one night I bought a $1,500 suit, and tomorrow I'll return it. Who cares?
She bought a set of dishes for Passover and after Passover.
Yeah, no, it's true. I knew an Israeli family in the valley in LA that used to do it every Pesach. I'm like, how can you do that? This is like haram at in all levels. It's so many levels. This is you're cheating the store and you're cheating the customers. And when I buy returned merchandise, it's okay if someone didn't like it and bring it back, but I don't want to use dishes that someone else used. Not from the point of view of kashrut. I think most people will not feel comfortable with that, like secondhand. Anyway, so makeh patish. This is also the question is, and it's important melacha to highlight, and with that I'll end with the next melacha, because some people argue that this is the reason for not using electricity on Shabbat, because makeh patish. Why? It says that's the finishing touch. everything is ready, right? The electric circuit is ready, and when you flip the switch, you connect it, so you gave the final touch, you made it. The problem with this argument is that by the original definition of the Mishnah, and by logic also, you could only give the finishing touch once. If it goes back and forth, it's not finishing. It's not the end of it. It's just like a collapsible chair or anything like that. You open it, you close it. You open it, you close it. You always go back to the original situation. So that's why the Sephardic poskim who deal with the question of electricity on Shabbat, mainly Rabbi David Shlush and Rabbi Moshe Levi, who was a Talmid of Rabbi Meir Mazuz in Bnei Brak, say that this is not a valid argument. Electricity on Shabbat has nothing to do with Makeh Patish. The two others, by the way, that people try to connect were Mav'ir, starting a fire, which is also rejected by both Rabbi Shlush and Rabbi Levi, because electricity is not fire. It could cause fire, but it's not fire. Because fire is a chemical process, and electricity is a physical process. It's electromagnetic. And then the other one that they wanted to associate with it was boneh, construction, because they say when you flip the switch, you close the circuit. But first of all, this will make anything that is not dependent on circuits wouldn't fall under this category. Second, it's a stretch of an imagination to call this thing construction. So the more logical thing to say about electricity on Shabbat would be that was the instinctive reaction of the rabbis to electricity, to say that it's forbidden. Without even digging to think how it works, the first reaction was, we have to say it's forbidden. Then the second layer came, okay, now let's say why it's forbidden. It didn't come from the point of view of let us analyze how it works and then decide whether it's forbidden or permissible, but rather do it this way. So now, in modern times, there are several areas where this becomes a problem, or more permissible, like LED lights, electromagnetic cards, which Rabbi Shlush says you could use on Shabbat for hotels, and now Rabbi Rabinovich in Israel said also. Then the next generation will have to deal with voice-activated devices, Siri, Echo, all these things, a wired house, and we're now dealing with motion sensor, volume sensors, etc. Interesting discussions. Finally, I'll conclude with the last melacha, hamotzi mereshut lereshut, taking an object from the private domain to the public domain. And for that, the rabbis had to define what is the private domain, which we understand usually as a house, a private house, a tent, a courtyard, into the public domain, which belongs to everyone. The problem with this specific one, what we'll see later, is that the rabbis associated all the melachot with all the types of work, with the types of work that were done in the desert for the construction of the Mishkan, of the tabernacle. And for this particular one, it was very difficult to find an analogy of what kind of work was done in the temple for the construction of the temple that will justify this one of Hamotzi mereshut lereshut. But when you think of modern halakha today, one of the things that define Orthodox communities is the eruv. Meaning you have to know where's the eruv, you're within the boundaries, and it's more expensive to buy a house or to rent within the boundaries of the eruv. Creates problems from some Shomer Shabbat families. We'll talk about it in another opportunity.
Question, Rabbi.
Yes.
Shatnez. Is any